This is the Love Mom and Dad presentation. Tonight's presentation will focus on the experiences as shared firsthand by Jim and Evelyn Piazza and Piazza Gruver. This is an important topic for our community and many across the country. We have two representatives from Counseling and Psychological Services should anyone need additional support given this topic. Tim Piazza dreamed of one day helping children and veterans through development of state-of-the-art prosthetics. His parents, Jim and Evelyn, describe him as a loving kid who invested in relationships with his family, friends, and girlfriend. Yet in 2017, at 19, Tim passed away after a fraternity hazing ritual. He was forced to drink at least 18 drinks over an hour and a half and suffered catastrophic injuries after a fall. Since then, Jim and Evelyn have been working to stop hazing. They were instrumental in passing a bill in Tim's name to strengthen Pennsylvania's hazing laws and started the Timothy J. Piazza Memorial Foundation to provide help for people, especially children, who need prostheses doing their part to fulfill Tim's dream. The Piazzas live in Reddington, New Jersey, and their son Mike is a graduate of Penn State. Jim is a partner in a large professional services firm and graduated from Rider University. Evelyn graduated from Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey. The Piazzas are the recipients of the Hank Newer Anti-Hazing Hero Award in 2018. Rianne and Stephen Gruver described their son Max as a gentle giant. He was a sports fanatic and wrote for a major sports website even before starting as a journalism major at Louisiana State University. Just weeks into his first semester, Max died after being forced to consume 190 proof alcohol in a fraternity hazing activity. The Gruvers have been fighting hazing ever since, including founding the Max Gruver Foundation and working to pass new hazing laws in Louisiana called the Max Gruver Act. It was signed into law May 2018, just 8 months after Max died. The Gruvers also helped pass the Max Gruver Act in their home state of Georgia in July 2020. The Gruvers received the 2019 Hank Newer Anti-Hazing Award for commitment to ending hazing. Rianne is also a recipient of the 2020 NPC Impact Award for her work with sororities and fraternities to end hazing. Rianne is a Clemson University graduate and a member of Alpha Delta Pi sorority, and Stephen is a graduate of the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. They live in Roswell, Georgia, with their son Alex and daughter Lily Kate. Additionally, we have Michelle Gobadia, who is an outspoken advocate for hazing prevention. Michelle is the recipient of the 2017 Hank Newer Anti-Hazing Hero Award, and she will be joining us as our monitor for the question and answer session. At the end of tonight's formal presentation, we will have an opportunity to engage in question and answer with our families. There are microphones on either side of the aisle. If you have questions, please come up at the end of the session. Everyone, please give a round of applause for our families, the Piazzas and Mrs. Gruver.
Good evening. Thank you all for sharing your time with us tonight. During our time together, we're going to talk to you about hazing, what hazing looks like, what to watch out for, and what you can do to keep yourself and your friends safe. Hazing should never be a part of your college experience or the college experience of any of your friends. This presentation is an honor and loving memory of our sons, Tim Piazza, who went right here at Penn State, and my son, Max Gruver.
Good luck at your first semester of college.
We hope that you have a great first year at school.
Have a good time and learn a lot about yourself.
Make new friends and have fun.
Make us proud and study hard.
Make good decisions and be safe.
Love, Mom and Dad.
His
lips are purple. His body's extremely stiff, and I can't wake him up, and I honestly, I don't feel a pulse.
19-year-old male is not conscious, not breathing. They believed it may be alcohol poisoning.
Every year for the past 2 decades, at least one young man in the U.S. has died in connection with fraternity hazing.
Hazing has killed at least one person a year since 1961.
As many as 6 college students lost their lives in the last year in alcohol-fueled hazing rituals.
Michael Dang died 2 years ago after a brutal beating from his frat brothers.
A team of frat guys tackling pledges as they tried to cross a pitch-dark field. They didn't let up, it says, until Harrison was wheezing on the ground.
Sons County 911, where's your emergency?
Hello, I think my friend drank a little too much.
Pledges were asked questions about the fraternity. Knockin and 2 others forced them to drink 190 proof alcohol when they got the answers wrong.
Okay, is he responsive?
He was, and then he's kind of laid back, started passing out.
Okay, is he still breathing?
A lawsuit claims he'd been asked to drink an entire bottle of 101 proof bourbon.
Piazza and 13 other Beta Theta Pi pledges participated in a drinking challenge called the Gauntlet, consuming 4 to 5 drinks in just 2 minutes. Piazza then reportedly suffering a catastrophic fall down a flight of stairs. 12 hours after Piazza's fall, the first call for help.
What's going on today?
We have a friend who is unconscious. He hasn't moved. His whole extremity is probably in that road.
An 18-year-old Colin Wyant was found dead after being subjected to shocking hazing abuse, including being beaten with a belt, forced to drink a half-gallon of vodka in 60 minutes, and forced to inhale nitrous oxide.
We're just at a point where we're trying to figure out how do you convince these very intelligent millennials that people are dying every year because of these behaviors.
Instead of dialing 911, the report says the brothers were using their phones to search for the phrases falling asleep after head injury, and a few minutes later, binge drinking, alcohol, bruising or discoloration, cold feet and cold hands.
And we received that knock on the door from the police officer at 5:30 in the morning. That will forever be the moment that divided everything in all of our lives.
He passed away there that night, probably between midnight and 1 a.m. They didn't call 911 until almost 9 o'clock in the morning.
Well, if we don't do something, it definitely is not going to end. You're just not supposed to bury your kids.
The nurse brought me forward and told me to kiss him goodbye. It was hard. And that's what you think of when you close your eyes.
They need to step up if they see something is wrong. Don't be scared. You could possibly be saving somebody's life.
There were estimated 100 people at that party, and 99 of them didn't help my son. Andrew died in a room full of people that just didn't care. Max. Let me tell you all a little bit about my Max. Max was a gentle giant. He was a sweet soul. He had a big smile and even bigger hug, and he was always someone who took care of the people around him. He was easygoing and super laid back. He laughed with his entire body, and he loved every day of his life. Max was born and raised in Roswell, Georgia, and is the older brother to Alex, who was just 16 when he died, and Lily Kate, who was just 12. He went to Blessed Trinity Catholic High School. He dated this beautiful girl, Blakely, all 4 years. He loves sports, journalism, and rap music. Max also wrote sports articles for Def Pen Radio, writing over 360 articles in just 3 years. He could talk your ear off about any sport and all the statistics to go with it. Max was a Little League coach, and he coached his sister's basketball team. Max chose LSU because he liked the journalism program, and he knew he had a lot of possibilities ahead of him. He had a bright future, one he was ready to go after. He pledged a fraternity to meet people and to get involved at a really big school. And he also wanted to join a fraternity where he could take on a leadership role. He'd even been up for pledge class president. Max was ready to start the next chapter of his life, but the next chapter of his life would be very short-lived. We dropped Max off on August 15, 2017. This picture is the last picture I have of my son and I. It's a moment I will never forget. It's a moment many of you probably had with your parents when they dropped you off, especially that freshman year. But it's the last time I felt his arms around me, giving me that huge hug. It's the last time I saw that enormous smile. It's the last time I was able to look at him in the eyes, tell him I loved him, that I wouldn't miss him, and that I was really, really proud of him. I told him, this is your time. Go shine your light on the world. 29 days, my son would be dead because of alcohol hazing in his fraternity house. According to police reports and trial testimony, pledges were summoned to the fraternity house for Bible study. They arrived at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday night, and their phones were taken from them. Some brothers descended down the stairs to where the pledges were playing pool, and one said, "Are you all ready for Bible study? Y'all better do well, because I'm already effed up." The pledges were then placed in a single file line as they were marched up the stairs as they were doused in hot sauce and in mustard. They were placed in a dark hallway with a flashing strobe light and loud blaring music, clearly intended to disorient and distract the participants. But the big part of the night was Bible study. Pledges were placed with their noses and their toes against the wall, and that's when the questions began. Answer a question wrong about the fraternity history, or mess up on the Greek alphabet, and you have to take a pull off of a liquor bottle. The liquor of choice for this Bible study was diesel, and a pull is taking a swig off that bottle until you are told to stop while brothers are screaming at you and telling you how long you need to drink off those bottles. Some pledges were forced to drink up to 10 seconds from those bottles. Max was one of those pledges. As I think many of you know, and for those of you that don't, diesel is not just alcohol. It is what is called a high-potency alcohol. It's an alcoholic beverage that is 2.5 times stronger than an alcoholic beverage that is more familiar to the average person, like rum or vodka. This particular alcohol is 190 proof alcohol, grain alcohol. It's literally poison. The alcohol's own website includes this warning, and I quote, "Diesel, 190 proof, is extremely potent and should not be drunk straight, but integrated with drinks in a small amount." According to witnesses, this pledge activity lasted less than 2 hours, and Max was forced to consume at least 18 to 20 pulls off of those bottles, which has been calculated to be at least 32 ounces of diesel. He was forced to take significantly more pulls because he got answers wrong, and he had been late to some other hazing events, and certain fraternity members singled him out. They singled him out. The actions taken by these hazers resulted in my son's death. Towards the end of the event, Max was observed to have a puke bag tied around his neck, but the hazers decided to make the pledges recite the Greek alphabet as they went down the line, each one saying one letter, and if anyone messed up, that person had a drink, and then they had to start back over again. Every single time they got to Max, Max messed up. He couldn't remember upsilon. It was the only letter of the Greek alphabet that he needed to remember. But with the puke bag tied around his neck, and obviously clearly intoxicated, Max was forced to drink at least 5 to 6 more pulls off of those diesel bottles. Max was taken back downstairs and left to sleep it off on a couch. And even with obvious signs of distress, no one called 911 to render Max aid during the night, something that could have saved his life. The brothers had observed him that night with labored breathing, cold, clammy skin, his lips and his fingers turning blue, and a weak pulse, even checking his pulse and checking his breathing and never calling 911. My son died some point the morning of September 14th. He did not wake up in the morning with a weak pulse like many police reports first said. The autopsy showed that Max died on that couch between 4 and 5 a.m. And the brothers, who were more concerned about themselves and getting in trouble than saving Max's life, they decided to clean up the house, get rid of most of those diesel bottles, and they even cleaned up Max. And then in the morning, when students were in their morning classes, the brothers called the pledges to come back to the house and get Max. They told the pledges to lie about how and where they found Max. And then they made 4 of Max's pledge brothers, 4 of his closest friends right at that time, pick up Max's dead body, carry it out of the fraternity house, put it in a truck, and take it to the hospital. Again, no one calling 911. Max's blood alcohol concentration was an alarming 0.495. I say alarming because this is 6 times the legal limit at which a person is considered legally impaired, like a DUI. That blood alcohol is a 0.08. Even more alarming is a blood alcohol concentration of higher than a 0.31 is considered life-threatening. Can you really call this a brotherhood? Subjecting your new members to any sort of hazing rituals like this? Tragically, my son died as a result of an alcohol hazing Bible study. He was left to sleep it off in the fraternity house with his brothers right there, and the outcome was fatal. The coroner cited the cause of death as acute alcohol intoxication with aspiration. Max literally choked and suffocated to death on his own vomit. 10 fraternity members have been arrested on criminal charges ranging from hazing to negligent homicide, which is a felony. 4 were indicted by a grand jury. 2 pleaded no contest, which is the same as a guilty plea in Louisiana, and they spent 30 days in jail, which was the most they could get under the old hazing law. The individual who was charged with negligent homicide was also found guilty and was sentenced to the maximum of 5 years in jail. So many lives have been ruined because of hazing, but most of all, our family has to live every single day without our oldest son, without a brother, without a grandson, without a cousin, a best friend, a boyfriend. This is not the college experience that we, or I think any of you in this room, are looking for.
Tim was an amazing person with an incredible sense of humor. He was shy until he got to know you, and then he was larger than life. He was smart, athletic, loved Netflix and video games, and he kind of had his life figured out. He was going to major in mechanical engineering so he could have a career designing prosthetics, go to grad school, eventually marry his high school sweetheart, and just have fun with his brother and friends. This is our last family picture taken together at the Rose Bowl, January 2nd, 2017. That year, when Penn State qualified for the Rose Bowl, Tim came to us, and he hardly ever asked for anything. So when he asked if we could go, we thought, oh, that would be cool. We'll make a vacation out of it. But Tim had qualifications. He needed to be home on New Year's Eve to be with his girlfriend, and he had to come home the day after the game so he could finish his winter internship. So we live in New Jersey, the Rose Bowl's in California. We went for not even 3 days, and it was the best money that we ever spent because a month later, he was dead. Tim was a big guy, and he took on the role of protector for anyone who needed it. Oh, wrong slide. Tim was a part of his girlfriend's family. He was the big brother to Caitlin's younger brother and sister, and he was there for them if they needed him or wanted him for anything. He was loved, trusted, and appreciated far more than he ever knew. They were devastated by his death. Tim was a big guy, and he took on the role of protector for anyone who needed it. He was a great friend, brother, and boyfriend. He brought lightness to any room, making people smile and laugh. My favorite picture is the one to the right. That, to me, was pure contentment. They truly were perfect for each other.
So let me set the stage. February 2nd, 2017, 1 month after the Rose Bowl, Tim received a text message from the fraternity telling him to report to the fraternity house by 9:30 p.m. wearing khakis and a blazer. He was told, "Don't be late, and we're going to get you fucked up." Upon arrival at the house, he and the other pledges were greeted with a small ceremony, and they were handed a handle of vodka, and they were told they had to finish it before moving on. Simple math would tell you that, on average, each pledge had about 4 shots in just a matter of a couple of minutes. After finishing the handle, they were lined up behind a door, and one by one were allowed through the door, where they encountered a drinking obstacle course. It was called the Gauntlet. It was a planned event. It was an event that they had done before. The Gauntlet had several stations, which included beer shotguns, drinking from a wine bag, more shots of vodka, a beer pong challenge, and other things. The pledges were being screamed at, and they were being pushed along through the obstacle course. The obstacle course was followed with what they referred to as a celebratory event in the basement of the house, where the pledges were handed more bottles of vodka, more wine bags, more beers to drink. All of this was captured on video. The video showed that in less than 90 minutes, Tim had the equivalent of 18 drinks. Shortly after 11 p.m., Tim went upstairs with another fraternity member who I think was probably trying to get him out of harm's way. But he left him alone. Tim got up and he tried to figure out how to leave the fraternity house. He's seen at the front door, but he couldn't figure out how to open the front door. So he stumbled around and eventually went back towards the basement steps, which is where he fell headfirst down 15 steps. 4 brothers were immediately seen carrying his limp body upstairs, and they threw him on a couch. He was out cold. For the next several hours, the brothers poured beer on him. They did a sternum rub to try to revive him, and if you don't know what a sternum rub is, it's supposed to be very painful, and it's supposed to wake you up if you are out cold, and Tim didn't react to it. The fact of the matter is somebody even knew what a sternum rub is, and they had some medical training. They continued to slap him, they backpacked him, they sat on him, they held him down on the couch because he was convulsing. He came in and out of coherency, and several brothers knew he needed help, and they sought to seek it, but they were overruled by leadership. One of the kids was thrown against the wall. At some point, the brothers went to bed, leaving Tim alone in the lower level of the house, and he is seen in apparent severe pain throughout the night. He was writhing around on the floor. At some point, Tim got back up, and he went towards the basement again, and that was the last time any video of him was seen. The next morning, he was found curled up in a cold basement, no shirt, in the fetal position, his body stiff and turning gray. For the next 45 minutes, the brothers and leadership debated what to do. They ordered a cleanup of the house while they tried to dress him, and they let him lay there as he was slowly dying right in front of their eyes. They were Googling head injury, cold extremities, heavy drinking. One of the leaders said in a text to his girlfriend, he looked fucking dead. After 45 minutes, 911 was called. There was no mention of the fall. There was no mention of what happened during the course of the night. An ambulance took Tim to the hospital by himself. No fraternity member accompanied him. No family members were called, even though they knew he had a brother on campus.
So now I want you to put yourself in our shoes. Who here has a brother or sister close in age to you? Close enough to be in college the same time as you? If not, consider your best friend, and then consider that you're both going to the same college. Now, close your eyes and imagine that your brother's going to pledge a fraternity, and it started last night. You get a call from your brother's roommate saying, "He didn't come home last night, and that's not like him. He always comes home." You decide something's wrong and call the hospital to see if he's there. They say, "Yes, there's been an accident. Come right away." You rush to the hospital and see your brother on life support, neck brace, bruises and blood on his body and head. The doctor tells you it's bad, that he has a subdural hematoma, which is bleeding in his brain. His spleen is ruptured, actually shattered. He has a punctured lung, And he needs a blood transfusion because, as it turns out, 80% of his body's blood is in his abdomen. You have to call your mom to tell her that the doctor's going to call, but that your parents need to come right away. You tell her what little information you know, that it was the first night of pledging, and that he fell down the stairs. They need to medevac him to a trauma hospital 1.5 hours away for neurosurgery immediately. You talk to him, even though he's unconscious. You tell him to hang in there, that you are proud of him, and that you love him. A tear rolls down his cheek, and you think he heard you. And then they take him away. Now, picture your mom and dad getting that phone call, as well as the call from the ER doctor. The doctor says he's a very sick boy, but they don't understand what he's hinting at, that their son is dying. Both mom and dad have to drive 45 excruciating minutes from work to get home, and then drive over 2 hours to get to the hospital where he'll be having surgery. Your dad says, this better not have anything to do with that fraternity, and your mom tells him, it was the first night of pledging. They call the police to find out what happened. There's not a lot of information. They say he fell down the steps once, maybe twice, after drinking. They get to the hospital and feel sick when they see the helicopter still sitting outside. They rush in and have to wait in surgical ICU. Finally, someone comes to take them to surgical ICU to meet with the surgeons. It turns out this man is a chaplain, but they don't understand why a chaplain was sent to get them. In a small room, a surgeon and a nurse tell them that their son's brain injury is non-recoverable. They feel the world stop. Another surgeon comes in and explains that once the skull was removed to release the pressure on the brain kept swelling outside of the skull, and that this is considered brain death. They try to comprehend what's happening. He's brain dead? How can that be? He's still on life support. Is there any hope for recovery? No. They have tests to prove brain death, but they can't be done because of his other injuries, so your parents have to take the doctor's word for it. You get a ride with your roommate and find out how bad it is from your parents. You try to be the strong one. His girlfriend comes with her dad. They have to tell her that the boy she loves is brain dead. You all cry together. Then you finally get to see him. The only skin showing is his shoulders. He's covered with blankets to keep him warm, but his body won't warm up. His head is covered with a white gauze stocking cap to cover the bandages from having his skull removed to release the pressure on the brain from the bleeding. And he's got bruises and swelling on his face. He's on a ventilator. There are IVs everywhere and machines monitoring his oxygen level and body temperature. They need to put chest tubes in his lungs because his oxygen level's dropping. They think he aspirated on vomit. The doctors and nurses are telling you that they're doing everything they can, but that it's just a matter of time. He's going to go into cardiac arrest. The organ donor person is talking to you about donating his kidneys, the only organs not damaged. Now, you all have to decide whether to resuscitate him when he goes into cardiac arrest, potentially breaking ribs in his already battered body, only to know that he will go into cardiac arrest again. Or do you let him go into cardiac arrest and die so they can take him into an operating room and harvest his organs? Or do you turn the machines off now in an operating room so they can harvest his organs immediately? You, your parents, his girlfriend and her dad decide to turn the machines off, but he codes before you can tell the doctors, and they resuscitate him as you watch from the hallway. A nurse pulls your mom forward and tells her to kiss her baby goodbye. He goes into cardiac arrest again, and you all let him go. You and the 10 medical personnel in the room who look at you with sad eyes. And there it is. He's dead. It's 1:23 a.m. A day and a half ago, he was alive and happy. How did we get here? How did this happen? What happened at that fraternity house? This doesn't make sense. He was a good kid. He wasn't a risk taker. He wasn't a drinker. He was a good student. He had a longtime girlfriend he was planning a future with. He had plans for his future at school and for his career. He had great friends and roommates. What happened? He was an amazing person who was hazed. And once he was hurt and unconscious, was slapped, had beer poured on him, had his shoes thrown at his head, was sat on to keep from rolling off the couch, was backpacked, and then ignored and basically left to die because the fraternity did not want to get in trouble. Think about this being your loss. Think about this being your pain. Think about having a funeral, having your brother cremated, and having to watch your mom put his urn in a niche at a mausoleum. Think about you losing your best friend. Why? Because he was hazed. Everyone's lives are forever altered, and there will always be this hole in your heart because he was hazed, got seriously hurt, and no one was willing to do the right thing and call for help for fear of getting in trouble.
So let's talk about what hazing is for a second. I suppose some people don't really know, but if you're doing something to intentionally cause emotional distress or physical harm to somebody in connection with joining your organization, regardless of their willingness to participate, that's hazing. And the regardless of their willingness to participate is important, and that's in most of the state laws. And the reason is, and I'll go into it later, is because the individuals feel like they have to participate. But hazing, as we know, can have tragic consequences. And it may start small, but it could certainly grow. So, in your organizations, and I believe we have a lot of new members here, individuals that are probably in the pledge process right now, I want you to think to yourself, as you're going through your new member process, whether you are already in or whether you're new, is what's happening causing physical or emotional distress to you or to others? Does participating in the activity go against the values or the values of your organization? All your organizations have a value statement, a creed, or something, and nowhere does it say anything about hazing. Is what you're doing illegal? Obviously, a lot of the things that we've seen where hazing is involved, it's illegal. Hazing itself is illegal. You can get in trouble for it. In Pennsylvania, you'll see later, you can get in serious trouble for it now. Are you being asked to keep these activities a secret, and if so, why? Would you get in trouble if a college administrator or faculty walked by and they saw you? Would you do this activity in front of your parents? And I like to use Wall Street Journal, New York Times example. I'm in a professional services business. I advise large corporations on tax matters. When I am advising them, I always think about, is my advice good advice? Is it gray? Is it advice that could get me and the company in trouble such that I could be ending up named in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times? Obviously, if I feel like what I'm doing is risky, I don't do it. I don't want my picture in the New York Times. I don't want my name in the Wall Street Journal for having done something bad. You shouldn't either. That's not why you're in school. You're in school to get a great education and to have a great career. And you have about 40 years, hopefully less for some of you, but you have a long career ahead of you. You don't want to get involved in this stuff. So there's a lot of different manners and types of hazing. They often start small. It could be wearing khakis and a blazer, just like I am right now. It could be carrying a brick around. But then it starts to ramp up. People feel comfortable that, all right, well, we were able to do this, so, let's step it up a notch. So maybe it becomes emotional hazing. Maybe you do things that are embarrassing to people. Sleep deprivation. I know that goes on here. The pledges, you got to stay at the house for the next 3 days. You don't get to sleep. That in itself is causing their grades to go down. It's causing them physical and emotional strain. What if one of those pledges on their way home is so tired and so out of it, they walk in the middle of the street and they get hit by a car. Do you want that on your head? I don't think so. And then, of course, there's the binge drinking, which is probably the #1 cause for somebody getting seriously hurt or dying. Introducing alcohol into the hazing process, into the new member process, I should say, is just crazy. You're essentially playing Russian roulette with someone's life when you do some of these things. There's so many other things that I could talk about that are hazing type items, but you know what they are. You know if you're doing something that is putting somebody at some level of risk. You don't intend to kill them. I don't believe anybody woke up, the morning of February 2nd and said, hey, let's kill this Piazza kid. I think they probably thought that they were going to have a good time and just put these pledges through aggravation. But it could turn very quickly. And the other thing to keep in mind is that it only takes one person in an organization to get it started, to get it going, and to screw it all up for everybody else in the organization. So that's something that you, as a member of an organization, should be aware of. And if you see somebody else doing it, you need to step up.
So there are both physical and psychological consequences to hazing. On the physical side, there are numerous cases of traumatic brain injuries due to beatings, falls, or forced drinking. Hazing can be exposed when a victim's hospitalized. Also, you aren't generally taking a medical history of your new members before you haze them. So, how many of you are on medications? Do you read the pamphlet that comes with them? Do you know what it is that you're allowed to take with the medication or not take? Like maybe you're not allowed to drink while you're on this medication? So you're not taking a medical history of somebody before you haze them. You also don't know if they have a previous medical condition. They may not even know that they have a previous medical condition. On the psychological side, the negative consequences of hazing can be long-lasting, and this kind of trauma is usually not reported. It can include depression, suicide, poor grades, withdrawal, and shame. You don't know if something in somebody's past makes them highly susceptible to repercussions if they are psychologically hazed. Hazing can have long-term damaging effects to a person's well-being and their future. You may not be able to hold down a job. Your memory may have suffered. You might have developed addictions. And as we know, hazing can kill.
So we've learned that there's a psychology to hazing. I want to believe everybody in this room is a good person and is totally against this behavior, but I guarantee you have people in your organizations that feel like it's their right. It's their right to do things to new members, whatever it is, making them carry the brick, making them drink from a handle of vodka or diesel, making them clean their room every night, stay over the house. I guarantee you there are people that feel as though it's their right to do that. On the other side, you have new members who feel like they have to do it. They feel like it's their only way to get into this organization that they so much want to join. And once they do a little bit of it, they're sucked in, they're bought in. I've made it this far, I should continue to go. I'll get through it. Everybody gets through it. Let me just keep going. That's why the laws are written such that it says the person's willingness to participate doesn't matter. If you were involved with a hazing incident, just because that person said, okay, I'll do it, doesn't mean you're off the hook. They feel like they need to do it. It's bullying in many cases for the purpose of bonding. And we, for the life of us, can't figure out how running somebody through a drinking obstacle course or feeding somebody diesel is going to make you guys closer. Not for the life of me. If you think that makes you closer, I'd love to talk to you afterwards. The other thing is hazing is often just a cycle of abuse. It happens to them, and they feel like, as I said, they feel entitled, hey, I should be able to do it to others. It happened to me, let me do it to others, and in the next year, let me do it to others. And we have seen it runs a trajectory up until something bad happens. Maybe not a death, maybe your chapter just gets thrown off campus. But why? Why do you want to get involved in that? As I said, it happens every day. I know because I talk to parents of students on this campus. My son died here 5 years ago, earlier this month. It's still happening in certain places. I know it. I've talked to parents. You guys can make a difference. Bottom line, it's against the law. So why do something that you know is against the law and you subject yourself to that trouble that would come with you getting arrested, with you getting fined, with you getting kicked out of school potentially?
So this map just shows you the variety of levels of hazing laws. In a few states, there is no hazing law. In a handful of states, it's like a traffic ticket. In many states, hazing is a misdemeanor of varying degrees. Hazing is now a felony in 14 states, I believe. And it's generally because a person had to die first, which is really sad. We were able to get Pennsylvania's law changed. The Groovers were able to get Louisiana's law changed. The Wyant family and the Foltz family were able to get Ohio's law changed. It shouldn't be that way. That's heartbreaking. But I want to point out that if you are from a state that is not hot pink in color, what you can do, and what we're asking of you, is to reach out to your local state senator or representative and ask them for a felony hazing law. Come talk to us, look up the Anti-Hazing Coalition. A couple parents of hazing victims got together with the NIC and the NPC and a couple other organizations, and we formed model felony legislation that we are happy to share with anybody who wants to pursue this. So we really feel that hazing as a felony will be a deterrent. So like I said, the new hazing law in Pennsylvania, named after Tim. Now it's a felony if there's serious injury or death. 7 years, $15,000 fine. That is steep. I don't know that you really want to get involved with that. And if you have a felony on your record, it's going to be awfully hard to get a job, and you lose certain rights, like voting. If it's a misdemeanor level, it's still pretty serious. On the school side of things, you could be suspended, you could be on probation, your chapter may be revoked, and the repercussions for your life, like Jim says, he interviews a lot of people, and if he sees a candidate who has hazing, felony, misdemeanor in their background, chances are that's not the person that is desirable for any organization.
So do you all know what medical amnesty is? Have you guys heard of it? It's like the Good Samaritan law. Basically what the law states is, if you're in a situation when 911 needs to be called, whether you've been drinking, doing drugs, doing activities you shouldn't be doing, if you call 911 and help another person, you will not be held liable. You need to stay with that person, don't clean anything up, don't throw anything away. Tell the police or the emergency personnel when they get there exactly what has happened. If you are cooperating, you will not be penalized. This law was started back in 2008. A young man named Carson Starkey, he was an SAE at Cal Poly, and he was being alcohol hazed very similarly to Max and Tim. And when he became clearly, incapacitated, the brothers started to do the right thing. They were like, man, they're looking at Carson, they're like, we got to do something. He is not looking good. He needs some help. They didn't call 911, but they put they put Carson in the car, and they started driving Carson to the hospital. Well, on the way to the hospital, they started talking in the car, and they're like, oh, shit, we've been drinking, we've been doing drugs. We're gonna get to this hospital, they're gonna start asking a lot of questions. And we're probably gonna get in trouble, something might happen, we could be arrested, something, bad could happen to us. So they decided, you know what, let's just turn around, we'll take Carson back to the house, and that's exactly what they did. They took Carson back, they laid him on a mattress, and Carson never woke up again. So his parents, after that, they are the key drivers behind medical amnesty going across, the country. There's only a few states left that don't have it. Pennsylvania is clearly a state that has it. Your university has it in their policies. So please, always get help. Always call 911. A person's life is always more important than any organization. You have to think about this. What if you don't call for help? What if someone is seriously hurt or actually dies? Do you want to be the person or the organization or the college that is known for killing somebody? And you guys, unfortunately, you are known for that at this point. Do you want it to happen again here on this campus? This would be on your conscience for the rest of your life. Or do you pick up that phone and call for help and potentially save a life and spares a family the pain and the unimaginable of what we've lived through every day without our sons? The beauty of Greek life is you get to choose your brother and your sisters. You should be looking out for each other, not tearing each other down, but bringing each other up. And if you see another member of your organization or another student on your campus that needs help, you should always be calling 911.
Sadly, this slide is always changing as we find out about new hazing victims. And unfortunately, you don't always hear about it until a family files a large civil suit. In many cases, there are no criminal charges. So that brings me back to the felony hazing law. It's not that we're proponents of throwing people in jail and that the slightest infraction you're going to get hit with a felony and go to jail. It's there to be a tool, to use as a guide, because you need to have a serious deterrent to bad behavior. In 2017, there were at least 7 deaths that we knew of. And Tim was not the first one, although we thought it was. Jordan Hankins was a suicide. Her PTSD was aggravated by the hazing that she was under. Max Gruver was in September, but it turns out there were 2 people in between Tim and Max. We thought he was the next one. And then there were 2 more after that. And another one of those in there was a suicide. And that was because he hit his head. He was made to drink. He hit his head, had a traumatic brain injury, and was not allowed to seek medical attention. And he ended up killing himself. There has been a hazing death every year since 1959, except for 2020, the year of COVID. So it seems that there has been a significant upswing in the last decade in terms of hazing behavior and hazing deaths. And it's a one-upsmanship from one year to the next, from one group compared to the other. You see something online and you think, challenge accepted. And each time, new and cruel ways to hurt, torture, and demean are created, and it's taken to that next level in danger and harm. There have been, in 2021, at least 5 or 6 hazing deaths, which is really sad because you would have thought that 2020 with COVID would have been a year of reset and a year where people could appreciate life and appreciate each other, but no, apparently not. So this slide, we reworked it, and in this format, it takes my breath away. Just to see how many people have died in the past couple years is shocking from hazing. And notice how many times the word alcohol is highlighted in red. It seems that hard alcohol is the hazing tool of choice in college, and it's got to stop because it's killing people. Far too often, that's what is killing people. If a person is unresponsive, get help. Do not backpack. And for those of you who don't know what backpacking is, it was done to Tim. It's when you fill a backpack with heavy books and you put it on a person's back thinking that this way they won't roll over on their back so they won't choke on their vomit. The problem is, at a certain level of intoxication, alcohol poisoning, the body's reflexes shut down and the vomit comes up, but it's not propelled out of the body. So the person breathes it back in, essentially drowning in their own vomit. Like Adam Oakes, like Stone Fultz, like Noah Domingo, like Max Gruver, like Andrew Coffey, like Dalton Diebrich, like Nolan Birch. It's happening time and time and time again, and it has to stop. And backpacking does nothing. So don't do it. If you feel that somebody is bad enough that you need to backpack, that you're thinking you need to check their breathing, you don't like their color, you're checking on them, call 911, please.
So this is our new normal. And obviously, there is absolutely nothing normal about our lives after our sons died. There's always somebody missing from our dinner tables. I mean, imagine your brother or your sister never being there again for those family holidays, vacations. I mean, again, celebrating the holidays. We just celebrated, well, you call it celebrating, but we just spent our 5th holiday without our boys. It does not get easier. I mean, honestly, I think at times it only gets harder. Max should have graduated last year in May. And I said this before, I think I've been in denial for 4 years since he died, just sort of pretending in my head like, oh, he's just at LSU. We dropped him off and he's there and it's kind of a mind game, right? You play with yourself, a little denial. But man, when he was supposed to graduate this past May and his friends were, Blakely did, it was hard. Everyone's life goes on. Max is still 18 years old. He should have just turned 23 years old. Tim should be 25 now. And 24, 25. 24. And like the Piazza said, it was just 5 years ago on February 2nd that Tim died after being here, and is trying to just join a fraternity, Beta Theta Pi. So, it's really hard on the family, the friends. A lot of both the boys' friends have suffered from depression, insomnia, anxiety. Kids have dropped out of school. Some of them have gone back. Other ones, it's hard. It's almost like survivor's guilt because they were there. They had to deal with it. They saw it. It was almost them because honestly, they were pretty intoxicated too. So it's hard. It's not just the families. It's all the people around them.
And for the perpetrators of hazing, you need to know financially what's going to happen. So in our case, 26 people were charged with criminal charges. We had 8 preliminary hearings. That's not even criminal court yet. So 8 times we had to go to court to determine what charges were going to go to criminal court. So 8 times people had to come with their parents, fly here, pay for hotels, have their high-priced criminal defense attorneys. Who's paying for this? Their parents. Out of their 401k, out of their savings, maybe they have to remortgage their house. And then there's criminal court, if you go to criminal court, or you plea, and then there's a sentencing. So each time you have to go to court, you have to explain to your new school or your job why you need time off for your hazing crime. And after criminal court is civil. And if you have civil damages assessed against you, that's monetary. And that kind of damage will follow you until you pay every last dime. You cannot claim bankruptcy. So it is a very expensive proposition for you and your family if you haze.
So we're going to challenge you guys here at Penn State. What can you guys do to change the hazing culture here on this campus and in your organizations? How do you make each other accountable, not just in your own chapter, but all the other chapters and organizations on this campus? And I think you guys have a really good opportunity right now with post-COVID. being back in school now, this post-COVID reset. You know, you guys went through, like we said, 2020. There was no hazing deaths. Why? Because there wasn't COVID. But you guys in that fall and that spring recruited, you bonded, you moved forward. There is no reason to bring hazing back into this culture or on this campus just because now you're back here at school. You know, how do you encourage that true brother and true sisterhood in your organizations? Again, what can you do instead of hazing? You did it during COVID. You had to figure some things out. You had to change things up. And I've heard, I was at Vanderbilt and they told us right there, they're like, well, because hazing's easy. It's really easy to plan that. It's not that it's so much easier to plan. You just think it's more acceptable to plan than actually, I don't know, organizing a bowling night, a movie night, some sort of team building activity. You know, instead, I mean, it wasn't easy to plan that gauntlet. That gauntlet, I'm sure, took a while for Beta Theta Pi to plan with all the stations, what alcohol needed to go at what station, who was going to be where. That's a lot of organizing right there. Take that effort to organize some sort of team building, bonding activity. It doesn't need to involve alcohol, and it never needs to involve forced alcohol, 100%. So how can you all be leaders also and make your chapter an example to all other organizations on your campus? And then how do you work as a campus community to make the hazing culture end on this campus? You know, and here's what you can do, and it starts with all of you being leaders. You know, taking action takes courage, and it's not always easy or the most popular thing to do. Speaking up is not going to be the easy choice, but it will be the right choice, and you may be saving someone's life. You all have to say no if you see hazing going on or you know it's going on. You know, in Max's case, witnesses had noted that the hazing was getting out of control, but they didn't do enough to stop it. In Tim's case, 3 fraternity brothers also recognized that Tim was in danger and that someone needed to get help. In both cases, valid concerns for Tim and Max were ignored. They were overruled by the hazers who were leading those hazing activities. So let me reiterate. Speaking up is not going to be the easy choice, but it will be the right choice, and you may be saving someone's life. You all know that if something doesn't look right to you or feel right to you, you have to go with your gut and take action and get help. You know, we can't reiterate this enough, but just because it happened to you does not mean you need to do it to the next group of new members. You can stop that cycle of abuse. You can stop it now. You all have to report it. If you see an incidence of hazing or you hear about it, report it. You can report it through your university website. You can contact your grief administrator. You can talk to your chapter advisors, talk to your parents. You can contact one of us. We will help you figure out something before something goes bad. And you know, you all too, you guys have right here on your campus that blue light system. Use that. You know, right outside the Beta Theta Pi house was a blue light. One of those people that had left because they didn't like what was going on that night, if they had just walked out and at least hit that button, somebody would have come, the police would have come, somebody would have knocked on that door. It could have changed all the events of that evening right then and there if somebody just would have hit that button. So use what you have available to you to make a situation change. And if you guys have alumni coming back to your campus and they're encouraging hazing, or even a lot of times they're doing it to your new members, you all have to report them to your nationals or report them to your Greek life, but report them. Your alumni should be your mentors. They should be guiding you to be better young men and women. And if you guys see somebody's in danger or in distress, clearly we have said this 100 times tonight, but call 911. Do not play Russian roulette with somebody's life. And the tone from the top of your organizations is absolutely critical. You must set the tone that hazing will not be tolerated and has no room in your organization. I want to share a quick story of Max. His executive board, on the Monday before he died, they had some hard decisions they needed to make, and they needed to make them really quick. And they got together before their chapter meeting, and they met about the guy who went down for the felony hazing. And they were discussing him because he was being dangerous and reckless with the new members. That's literally their words, dangerous and reckless. Everybody described him like that. So they got together and they talked about it, and they could have done numerous things, right? They could have put him on probation, they could have thrown him out, they could have fined him. Hey, don't go near the new members anymore. Well, what they decided was, you know what? We're gonna talk to him after chapter tonight, and we're gonna give him one more chance. So they did. They talked to him after chapter that night. And you know what he said to them? He said, I can do whatever the fuck I want to do to these new guys. And they let him go. And 3 nights later, he killed my son. So exec boards, you guys need to make hard decisions very quickly about your members. You are there to keep others safe, and you need to get rid of the guys that don't want to follow your rules. You have to do it fast. You have to step in. Because it boils down to this, and it's about caring enough about your chapters, about this campus, about your organizations here. And do you guys care enough to educate yourself and your members on what is right and what is wrong? Do you care enough to make sure that those around you are making safe decisions? Do you care enough to remove others from harm's way? Do you care enough about others that you don't have to demean them or demoralize them or ridicule them? Do you care enough to report when someone else is not caring? And do you care enough to live the values of your organizations, the values you committed to in your organizations? And as Jim said, all of your organizations have an oath or a creed that you all abide by. I personally, I'm an 80 Pi from Clemson, right? I believe in Alpha Delta Pi. We live for each other. Phi Psi, united by friendship, sustained by honor, and led by truth. Sig Ep, the balanced man. Virtue, diligence, and brotherly love. Kappa Kappa Gamma, dream boldly, live fully. Pi Phi, promote friendship, develop women of integrity, cultivate leadership potential, and enrich lives through community service. If you are living by these oaths and these creeds that you all abide by, where does hazing fit in? The fact is, it does not. If you are living by these oaths and the creeds, hazing has no room in your organization. So I'm going to share with you guys something that we found in Max's journal the night before we buried him. And it was from a paper he wrote on blessings when he was just 16 years old, and the last paragraph ended like this. God works in funny ways. He does bad things sometimes because in the end they are good. Something bad can happen to you, but it may happen because it will make you better. He does bad to ultimately create good. Our sons were absolutely no different than any one of you sitting in this room tonight. They both went away to college, and they wanted a home away from home. They wanted a brother when they couldn't be with their brothers. They wanted a family when they couldn't be with us. The boys just wanted to feel safe. So take these words of Max back with you to your chapters and across your campus and put an end to hazing. Make something good out of something that has been so horribly bad for us. Make this hazing culture change.
I'm sure all of you have one of these pictures from freshman year when you moved in. Tim was a Green Bay Packer fan, and we thought it was pretty cool that he was in Packer Hall. But, you know, every one of you has these pictures. In one of Tim's high school classes, his teacher had the class write themselves a letter, and he was going to mail it to them in 5 years. Sadly, Tim didn't live long enough to see that day. And his teacher came to the wake and left this manila envelope for us in the back of the church. And when we opened it up, we were shocked to see Tim's handwriting because we didn't know about this assignment. And when we opened it, we were so moved to see what Tim had to say to himself, but so sad because he wasn't there to read it for himself. And it was so deep. He told himself, "Don't sweat the small stuff. Relax a little and enjoy life. Find happiness. Not everything is on a silver platter. You need to find what makes you happy. Contact your old friends. Contact family more. I don't know how long any of us will be around, but cherish everyone. Cherish everyone. Everyone is important. Everyone is worthy of being treated like they matter. It is not hard to be kind.
So Max and Tim died because of hazing, and making this hazing culture change will save lives. It could be somebody sitting in this room right now tonight. You all can contact us with this information on the screen behind me. You can reach us through our social media websites. You can email us anytime for anything. We're here to help. Please let us know if we can. And I think we're going to transition now into some Q&A. So I think give us a second. And please open up and ask us questions. That's what we're here for. Clearly, we'll answer anything.
Let's give a round of applause for Jim and Evelyn Piazza and Piazza and Gruver. Thank you. I don't know about y'all, but I have seen them speak several times, and I am moved every single time, and I think most of you in this audience felt something, and you could see yourselves in their position, and more importantly, you could see your parents. So to that end, I will invite anyone who has questions. There are 2 mics at the front of the auditorium, and we're happy to take questions from the audience. And I will get us going if you don't mind. I want to ask you on behalf of the audience, how are you today? This happened 5 years ago. How are you today? What is life like for today? You mentioned how it's hard for the family and friends, but what is today like?
Every day is hard. Every day is incredibly hard. I don't have a full-time job. This is my full-time job. So I don't have a lot to distract me during the day otherwise. So I'm focused on the foundation, which is about Tim. I'm focused on speaking, which is about hazing and about Tim. So I think about Tim a lot. And then being back here, we so loved this place. When both of our boys were here, we drank the Kool-Aid. We bought the big grill, the big car. We were here tailgating at football games. It was awesome. And then this happened. And our son stayed here, our older son. He loved it. He loved it here. And this was his support group. So then it makes it really, you're torn because you like it, but now it's a source of heartache. So it's hard to be here. And 5 years is a long time to be without your son.
Yeah, I do have a full-time job, but we were down in Florida because of COVID. I've been able to work from wherever, and we flew up from Florida yesterday, and I had a bad day. I mean, frankly, I had such reservation about coming here. Because obviously it brings back a lot of good memories, but some not so good memories. And, you know, I think about Tim all the time as well, even though I have a full-time job. But yesterday was a really hard day, and I was in a really bad mood just knowing that I was coming here. But, you know, this university is important to me, and the culture of it's important to me, and that's why we came.
Yeah, I go right along with all them, and it's really, I mean, it's really hard. My daughter's gone through a lot. She's 17 now, and the last couple of years haven't been that easy. I mean, she was 12, she was in 7th grade when Max died, and, you know, I don't think she really got it. It was just hard. It's just hard. And, you know, when she got about 15, she really started Googling everything and looking things up, and it just, that's not easy for you to swallow, is how your brother died. And all she kept saying was, why would somebody be so cruel to another person? And why would somebody be so mean? I mean, Max just wanted to join an organization, and, you know, you're like, honey, I don't know. So it's not easy. We go through ups and downs. My older son's a junior. He's a junior at Auburn. And, it's just ups and downs. He misses that. They were best friends. Max and Alex were absolute best friends. They were connected at the hip. And, it's not an easy thing to live with.
Fair enough, thank you. Penn State has a long and deep culture, whether it's through athletics or even fraternity and sorority life. And culture is one of the most difficult things to change. What advice would you give to students sitting in the audience today about changing culture, particularly ones that are negative and are not helping build Penn State's community?
Well, I'll start. I mean, if it's not a smack in the face that you guys had a death on your campus, our son, just 5 years ago, which isn't that long ago, I mean, that's not something that I think anybody associated with the university is proud of. And you just went, as Rayanne said earlier, you just went through a period of COVID and you found other things that you could do instead of hazing people. The whole world is in a reset right now. You guys are the beginning of the reset of the fraternity and sorority culture and the clubs and organizational culture that exist on this campus. You guys can start the cultural change. I believe it takes 5 years to change a culture, especially at a university, just because you have new people coming through all the time. But you guys are the first ones through. You can make a difference if you choose to. And that may require you making some tough decisions and calling some people out that aren't doing the right things. But, I think you have a real opportunity to make it great again.
Leanne, I'm sorry, Rayanne, can you elaborate too? Your son was at a huge school too. LSU has tons of culture as well. Yes. What are those culture changing things that 18 to 22-year-olds can really dig into to move people to a new place?
Well, I think, you guys, your generation is it's the Me Too generation. You guys are so empowered to change so many things and make the world a better place. That's why, again, hazing just baffles me, that for a generation that wants to help each other and move everybody forward, and we talk about so much mental health and sexual assault, and hazing is just as bad as those things. And you guys can change it. You need to feel empowered to stand up for yourselves and change this culture that's just a cruel act of bullying. It's peer pressure and bullying to its finest, and to people that you want as part of your organization, but then you treat them so horribly. Again, I don't get it. So again, but you guys have the power to change it, and you guys have been changing it. This generation has slowly been moving it forward and making the changes. And again, I think you guys have a huge reset right now that you can really come back strong after COVID and change the culture and make the culture what it's supposed to be about, which is brotherhood and sisterhood and sportsmanship. I think there's some, teams here too. So again, I think you guys can make that change.
Awesome, thank you. Again, I invite anyone who has questions to please come to the mic, but I got plenty, so no worries. As external stakeholders, what are some of your current concerns and frustrations 5 years after the death of both of your sons?
I am extremely frustrated that this is still going on, and that we've been to schools that have then had a major hazing incident or a death. We've told you, we've told people time and time again what hazing is and how damaging it is. Damaging to the victim, damaging to the families. Put yourself in our places. What if this was your brother or sister, or your cousin, or your own child? It is so frustrating that people do not see that all hazing is just meanness. There's nothing positive about it. There's no bonding. This isn't the way to start a friendship. There is no positive factor to hazing.
I have a question.
I have answers. You go first.
Actually.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious, because I know there's a lot of new members in here, right, tonight? And this is, seriously, I know Max, when he went to LSU, he was there 29 days, and he didn't know what hazing is, and I've heard as you know, obviously we've been doing this for years now, a couple of years, that a lot of people really don't understand what hazing is, even that smaller hazing, you know. Yeah, maybe you can understand forced drinking because it's very obvious, right? But do you guys all understand like the smaller versions of hazing? Or did you before, did you before you came in here? Do you understand it more now? Do you understand the whole servitude stuff? Having to do laundry, you know, for your brothers or your sisters, or carrying things around in your pockets. Like, are you getting that? Raise your hands if you're not, are understanding it. Because it does start off a lot smaller.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point. Before you came here, who could define hazing? And they could probably get up on stage and define it before you saw it on the screen. Anyone?
Yeah.
Cool. So now that we've been here, we've spent some time together, raise your hand if you could define it. At least define it by what you saw.
Pretty well.
Fantastic. Question.
That was my slide, Brianne. Just like, that was my slide.
Nice.
Any action taken or situation and create. I
Absolutely.
But
and I think, could we agree there's a difference between maybe little hazing, little h hazing, and big H hazing? And would you recognize both as hazing? So I think you make a great point. The servitude, no one's getting hurt, carry this around.
But that's it.
But that's
it's
hazing.
Starting it.
Absolutely.
And you know, I think that's what a lot of people don't understand when it first starts is, oh, this is no big deal. But you know, it started off like with Max Small. We've talked about that with the khaki shorts and the polo shirt. But in that 3 weeks, whatever, he was forced to get somebody else's car, that he had to pick up some other guy in like 10 minutes and take him to a convenience store. He was being screamed at in the car and smacked upside the head. And they had to go in and buy like $60 worth of vapes and cigarettes and whatever else. And there's things that keep escalating. There was another event, you know, that it went up more with the drinking. So that's the things I think you need to be aware of. And then I think this is a big one. Jim's like, shut up already, Ram. But those formal and informal calendars. Max, for instance, they had a formal calendar that was for Phi Delta Theta. And those were all the events you had to be at and what you had to do. But then there was also this thing called the informal calendar. And basically the informal calendar was all the hazing events. And those weren't on the formal calendar that everybody saw. And they say, oh, like the new member educator, like, oh, you don't have to do the things on the informal calendar. But at Max's trial, every active member, and there was like 30 guys and pledges that had to testify at Max's thing, all of them said on that informal calendar, we knew we had to go to those hazing events. Because if we didn't go to them, you know, we would either be cut from the group, you know, or be worse next time, which is kind of something that started with Max. He was late to some other hazing events before that. And if anyone knew Max, this is how much those brothers didn't know him. Max was late for everything and nothing was gonna change that. But they went after him that night, you know, proving a point about, oh, you're late to everything, stop being late, take a drink. And then they killed him. So again, those informal calendars, they still make you guys all liable for what you're doing. And you can't just tell them, oh, no, you don't have to go. You shouldn't even have them. There shouldn't be a hazing informal calendar at all.
Hey, I just want to talk to the new members real quickly for those of you that are in here. So there's strength in numbers. If any one of you, and I could see it, you know, there's probably a couple of you, if you are being hazed, that are like thinking to yourself, this isn't right, but you're looking and you see the 12 other guys in your pledge class and they're not saying anything. Well, maybe, you know, I'll just shut up. I'll keep going with it. You have a license to say no. You can say no. And it's even better if you can convince the other folks in your pledge class to say, no, we're not doing it. And here's why. The organizations need to make new members because they need your money. So they're not going to tell a whole pledge class to go back to your dorms. They're not. So if you have somebody that's pushing you to do things that you don't feel comfortable with, the answer is no, I'm not doing it. And if anybody gives you a hard time with that, please, there's our email addresses. You can get in touch with us and we will help you work it out.
Awesome. I think I'm going to ask one more question, and I think this is probably on a lot of people's minds. You have been extremely benevolent in your time and energy traveling around the country, educating fraternity and sorority and sports teams and all types of organizations about what happened to your children. So I think it's easy to see that you believe in fraternity and sorority life to a certain aspect, and it's a good thing. What do you envision for the future of fraternity and sorority life? And what would you like to see moving forward?
Look, I was glued to the live stream for Thon. That is so powerful. Jim will quote Spider-Man. Go ahead, quote it.
Okay, so real quick. I know I got to think about my story. All right, so anybody in here like Spider-Man?
Love Spider-Man.
Tim was a big Spider-Man fan. So Tim was very involved in Thon. When he used to do the canning, he bought a Spider-Man outfit, and he would do the canning in the Spider-Man outfit, and would take pictures with kids, little kids, that then the parents would make donations to Thon. And he always liked Spider-Man. So what I try to tell people in leadership roles is with great power comes great responsibility, which is a Spider-Man quote. And we have a plaque of that in our basement that I guess Tim got at some point. So I say to all of you, with great power comes great responsibility. You have the responsibility to do the right thing and to call out people that aren't doing the right thing. There's the Spider-Man story.
And my point is, so much good can be done with your organizations. I mean, just the philanthropy and just building each other up and being that network for life, whether you help each other get jobs or your alumni help you get a job, or in the future you help your friends' kids get a job, or you go to each other's weddings, and you have the opportunity to have something so great that isn't tinged by cruelty.
And it just, kind of why are we doing this? I don't like to see young people die. It's just, I'm running around doing this because I don't like to see young people die.
Sure.
So if we could help one person that we don't know about that didn't die because of something we said, I'm good.
Any closing thoughts, Rhiannon? Fair enough. That was pretty good. Well, I think we definitely felt the love of Mom and Dad tonight. Can we give another round of applause to Jim and Evelyn and Piazza and Gruver? I hope you all know the great privilege and responsibility you all have in being members of our community, and hopefully you were impacted by being here tonight. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you again to you all. I believe you have to check out, so don't run out of the building. Have a good night and be safe and take care of each other.